Hi everyone, welcome to Entrepreneur Excel Expert Spotlight. Under this series, we bring the best of industry experts to share their wisdom, experience, and advices with us. Entrepreneur Excel is a global community which is connecting over 70,000 members to different social media platforms. We are there on YouTube, we have a WhatsApp network, we do a lot of online and offline meets. We help them grow through networking and collaborations. Well, I'm your host. My name is Devisha Jatakia, and I am a social media trainer and a strategist. I provide training and management services to help entrepreneurs and businesses grow organically on social media. Now, for today's live, we have our topic is disrupt to create. Now, understanding disruption can help you get better understanding about what true innovation is, and possibly improve our business to produce more innovative products and services. To share more on this, let's welcome our today's expert, Lina Ashar. She is teacher by heart, a happiness advocate, and a TEDx speaker. And let's hear it out from Lina. Let me add her to the stream. Hey, Lina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So let's begin with our, this very interesting, session. So tell us why do we sell a thriving business? Let's start with that.
So I think if you have a vision for the future
Mm-hmm.
and you know that everything is changing, and today everything is changing even more exponentially,
True.
then you'll always think about the business and say, do I need to pivot something to be viable, still in the industry? So if you look at people who didn't, companies that didn't think about it, like Kodak or Blockbuster, they failed to see that they could be, because of technology, because of exponential change, there could be something just around the corner that could disrupt their business. Today, I was talking to a jewelry designer, and I said, I see a huge potential for disruption in the diamond industry, because today you can actually 3D, you can recreate a diamond, and an expert can't really tell the difference. So then, what do you need to do to stay ahead of the curve? Do you get into costume jewelry? Do you do something else? Because one day believe that industry too will get disrupted. So I think you just have to keep thinking ahead and say, could technology and exponential change disrupt the business that I'm existing in? And should I pivot before that happens?
Quite interesting insights on this. So, is what brought you success the first time around, or how you have holded it good for the second time also? Like, how is it?
So I think it's your mindset that brings you success.
Okay.
Things like, your belief in yourself. Any entrepreneur knows that there'll be times when you have little creeps of doubt kind of come in, but how do you, very quickly reframe that? Because you don't want to go down that pathway. You have to have that absolute belief, not only in yourself, but what you set out to do, right? Because that's going to take you to the end. You've got to have perseverance, because nothing's going to, some things are not overnight successes. I was
Right.
lucky with Kangaroo Kids that I pivoted in the first year. Now with Korroboree International Online School, I have to um, I have to have to re-engineer how parents think, right?
Correct.
Because parents
True.
think conventionally. I very often believe, that the saddest saddest, if you see it as an organization, is schooling and education, because your customer is actually the parent, but your consumer is a child. If you
Child.
could make your child the customer, all schools and education will be forced to disrupt themselves and recreate themselves to remain relevant and engaging for learners whose lives have completely changed from when we were learners.
True.
So I think it's the mindset. So I'm very optimistic. I've got a growth mindset. I'm very curious. I'm a lifelong learner. I think it's the same set of mind habits that bring you success in any startup that you're going to be engaged
Wow.
with.
So how do you rewire your, how do you rewire phrases or probably your strategies or your, whatever your brain is calling, okay, this is not wrong. Probably we are not supposed to do it like this or pattern, how do you disrupt that?
So, so obviously you have to keep very close connection with the project that you're setting up. I'm very lucky that this time around, my driver, I don't have any external investors, so I can stay absolutely true to my calling. But otherwise, you've got to keep reinventing strategies to make sure that your top line and your bottom line is speaking to your investors. I'm very lucky to be self-invested. And I've got a co-partner who's invested. So I'm not looking at any sort of external investment, but you'll have to keep watching patterns. We actually pivoted from um, what we'd set out was a curating an edtech business platform and helping them to get into India. And when we realized that that wasn't going to happen, we very quickly pivoted from that to an online school, because the bottom line is, I believe technology is a great tool to use for learning to be engaging, relevant, personalized for kids. So I haven't changed my vision. It's just that I've actually changed from doing A to B because I knew very quickly that A wasn't going to work. So I've pivoted to B. And now with B, I've got an absolute belief because we've got kids online, we've got parents online. And while we don't have thousands of kids or even hundreds of kids online, the number of kids that we have online are delighted. And for me, parents are delighted, but that's not so important. I want kids to be delighted
It's
because, it's you want the kids to be so engaged that they only want to be in this ecosystem.
true, absolutely. That was a great sharing. Thank you for sharing that. Well, what did you have to learn in order to start this new project?
I had to learn a lot about different types of technologies that I could engage. I mean, so you don't have to be an expert at everything you do in your startup, right? So I have a great guy called Mukesh who does that piece for
That's a
us.
very important point. You don't need to learn
Yes,
everything. True.
you don't have to learn. Yeah, so I'm not great at finance, but I don't want to look at finance, right? I want to. So one of the key things about the future of learning is, don't look at what you can't do, but look at what you can do, and um, expand on that, right? So very often I say, I have had leg surgeries, born with dislocated hips. No matter how much my teacher wants me to become a marathon runner, the chances of me being a marathon runner is not one of my strengths,
Ah,
right?
true.
But do I have to focus on being a marathon runner, or should I focus on where my strengths actually are?
Ah,
So do we always have to focus on our weaknesses? When kids go to get a report card and parents go to a PTM, they're always told what your kid's not good at. But why not tell your kid what he is really good at and not focus on
true.
what he's not so good at?
What
Because
is
if I don't know finance, I will hire a CFO. If I don't know technology, I have a technology, but I still have to understand the vision of what I want the technology to do and whether the technology can do that or not. So I think
right?
technology is the one area in which I had to really engage to understand that this is what I want to do and what actually can I realistically do, and then how do I make sure that the learning design supports that. But apart from that, see, if I say that going forward, learning is not going to be standardized. It's going to be individualized. So you're going to be honored for your unique set of abilities that only you have. So my set of unique abilities is, I'm deeply curious about the brain. I'm deeply curious about the connection between the brain and the body. I'm deeply curious about human potential. I'm deeply curious about the science of motivation and engagement. My personal copyright of who I am, my uniqueness, sort of sits in the intersection of being deeply curious about human behavior, being deeply curious about the neuroscience of learning, and being deeply curious about the future context of the world. And that's where the learning design comes together at the core of that, to be really relevant, engaging, and accelerated in terms of its learning design. So at Korroboree International Online School, you actually finish your school day in half the time. Because if we're saying that to become an expert at anything, you need 10,000 hours of practice. How am I going to get 10,000 hours of practice of learning to play the guitar or public speaking or something that I'm deeply interested in? Because I'm so overwhelmed by, the content and the textbooks and then the homework that I have to do that my whole day is gone, and plus traveling to and from school. So that was one of the key problems that I wanted to address is how do we make it nicer for kids? We know after the pandemic, I know that if you told me I have to go to an office from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I'd say thank you very much. I don't want the job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
True.
we've seen a mass resignation occur because
Yes.
adults have suddenly said that there's a better way to live. But why don't we think about that for kids? There's a better way for kids to learn without spending 3 hours
Exactly.
on a school bus and so many hours in a classroom. And when we say, parents ask me, what about social emotional learning? I said, what social emotional learning do you think a child gets? 40 kids in a class, straight rows,
Straight
facing the
rows.
teacher. If I talk to my neighbor, my teacher will say, stop talking.
Stop talking. True.
Be quiet. So what social emotional and engagement human engagement am I getting in a classroom? I'm getting more online where we can tell kids do this collaborative activity. I'm going to put you quickly into breakout rooms of 4,
That makes more
and
sense.
um, yeah, sorry.
No,
So
no.
yeah, so I think for anyone who's wanting to get into starting a startup, I think if you know what problem you're trying to solve and you genuinely go about solving that problem. So one of the biggest things I want to do is demonetize education. I previously served a set of elite children, right? That you had to be able to afford
Right.
the fee structure to be able to come into a school. Now, the backward thinking is, what do I have to eliminate? So it's not always what I have to add, but what do I have to eliminate in order to make learning affordable? I have to eliminate real estate,
Right.
right? It's the same thing. When I first started Kangaroo Kids in Billabong High, there was only one international school. That was the American School of Bombay. And I said, what makes it so expensive? So what do I have to eliminate from there and add to actually make learning engaging and accessible? So
Engaging
we
and
created like curriculum in a box, right? Gives teachers the resources, put the neuroscience and behavioral science understanding into your lesson plan so that teachers can execute it. And so it's always some form of backward thinking. This is the problem I'm trying to solve. What do I have to add? What do I have to delete? And then there you
so
go.
it's more about the clarity that you have. The more clarity you have, the more wider vision you have. So it will be easy for you to move forward in your own new projects, or probably
Absolutely.
you can always
I've got a very small vision. It's only 1 billion kids.
perfect.
If I get when I get to 1 billion kids, I'll say okay, it's been a
Yes.
success. Because if you really want to transform the way the world works, uh, with more kindness, with more love, with more heart intelligence and brain intelligence, then you have to touch the lives of 1 billion kids.
That's the minimum that we can do.
Absolutely.
So you have covered many of the pointers, of my next question in our talk right now. But still, I would like to ask, like, right now the world is moving towards, going offline. Things are being started. Then why digital? Why this thing?
So I looked at the pain points of a lot of things, right? The first pain point is of the planet, right? When I go online, I cut down carbon emissions of kids actually traveling to school and coming back. I cut down, because it's digital, I cut down the use of paper and other resources that is kind of eating our planet alive. So I look at that. Then I look at the pain points of parents. Parents are paying humongous amounts of money for uniforms and textbooks and sports and performing arts, which is not even up to the mark because it's so mass sort of taught that if one kid is learning how to dribble in basketball and the other kid's actually shooting, but you can't. You have to run a common curriculum across.
True.
So if I want to actually give kids their their childhood back, if I want to give them the time to engage in unstructured play, because that's where real social emotional learning happens. If I want to give them the time to pursue their interests that is outside the core curriculum, right? If I want to take away the pain points of parents having to spend so much on education and textbooks and uniforms, and primarily, if I want to make learning engaging and fun, that means I've got to cater to a child's learning style, and that can best be done digitally because it's visual, it's auditory, and then I'm constantly giving kids things to manipulate the real world, so it's kinesthetic as well.
So, are you not anxious about the screen time and kids? And of course, I have experienced that kids become less focused. I mean, my kid was less focused when he was doing those online. No doubt it was not that interesting, but yes, the
So one is,
focus.
schools had to take offline learning online. Yeah. And so one of the things parents also saw is how boring it is that you're paying top rupee for a school, but what the kids are getting is actually so boring. Right. So it's
True.
the first time parents woke up and parents started becoming anti-screen because what they were receiving was terrible. Right? I want to ask you, how old are your kids?
He is 11.
11.
He's in, yeah.
Okay, so you go to a restaurant and you're watching a group of parents together. What are the kids usually doing that they weren't doing before? They're using, they're online using the screen as a
They're
babysitter.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
whenever a parent wants to babysit a kid, he or she very quickly gives them the screen. Now, kids have learned that that is a source of distraction.
True.
We've trained and taught them that digital technology is here to stay, right? So
Hmm.
why don't we embrace it and teach kids to have a healthy relationship with it? Which means when we are doing even though our school time is half, so if a kid was to spend 7.5 hours in school, they're spending 3 hours online. In that 3 hours, there's two physical breaks where kids actually go away from the screen. There's music and movement in that. There's eye yoga in that. We teach kids how to look away, distance their eyes, and then come back. So we're teaching them to have a healthy relationship with technology. We're doing creative visualization online. We're doing meditation online. We're teaching them how social media has its upside and its downside. And how do you embrace the upside? If you're an activist, there's nothing better that you can do than social media, right? If you have a great idea, there's nothing better than you can do than get crowdfunding. So you can use technology to actually serve you, right? But we also teach them the technology's downside, that if you're constantly looking for how many likes you have, you're likely to go down a path of megalomania, and that's not what you want because that
True.
leads to depression. So
Absolutely.
we're teaching them to have a healthy relationship with technology rather than using it to distract themselves. Another big thing that parents don't realize is we have we turn to alcohol and Netflix when we want distraction.
True.
What can kids turn to when they need distraction from the overwhelm of homework, of school, of all that pressure? They turn to technology. So they're using technology as a distraction. We've,
Distraction.
on top of that, taught them to use it as a distraction because whenever we want adult time, we give them, here, take the iPad and go away for 10 minutes.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of edtech companies who are struggling, and does that make you nervous?
No, so I think there's technology and marketing companies
Mm-hmm.
where eventually like a lot of parents took their kids out of schools in which they were paying 10 lakhs fees and put them in other schools because they realized, my god, what am I getting for 10 lakhs? I've got this fancy infrastructure, but the learning that's coming to my kid is not great. You have companies that have used technology but are more, their content is not the base of what they're doing. For us, content is the base of what we're doing. Second thing is, I'm not looking for a quick fix. I'm not looking for overnight success. I'm not looking for series A, B, C funding. I'm staying true to the core purpose of who we are. And we're a learning organization. Technology is only a tool that we use to drive the learning,
Right.
yeah, to deliver the learning. But we have a team of 20 people who are actually creating all, and we call them curiosity and excitement architects. They're creating all the active learning that teachers will use online for kids to engage with.
Wow. So that was really, really insightful, power pack 20 minutes. And friends, if you have any questions, you can, post in the comments below, and Lena and her team will make sure that they'll come and they'll answer it to all. Plus, we'll be adding her contact details and contact coordinates in the wall copy post, so you can, just go back and, directly approach her to know more about this. And Lena, thank you so much for being on this Entrepreneur Excel Expert Spotlight, with sharing your great insights and wisdoms about technology, the digital time, and it's a great initiative that you have started. Wish you all the very best for
Thank you.
and a lot of success.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll